morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to our Monday morning meditation. We are live today. This is not a recording. Thanks for being present last week for Labor Day, the recording that happened. That's definitely with you all as we shared that time together, live or otherwise. So it's great to be here with you today. As I was thinking about our time together today, one of the thoughts, concepts, lessons that has been on my mind this morning and the last few days is the concept of being in our higher mind. And that can mean a number of things. We can look at that in different ways. We can look at it from a neuroscience level of when we are in our higher brains. You know, our emotions are, this is our brain. Underneath in the middle is our emotional brain called the limbic part of the brain, a limbic system, and that manages our emotions or doesn't manage our emotions at varying degrees of helpfulness. But that's where our emotions rest. That's where they lie. We have our brain stem that covers all of our automatic functions that go on, our organs, our heart, our breathing when we're not thinking about it, when we're not consciously working with our breath. Our breathing is automatic, so that's all in the brain stem. And this front part of our brain is our cortex. That's the human part of our brain where we learn languages and we're able to think about the past and worry about the future, think about the future, as well as being in the present moment also. And this front part of our brain is called the prefrontal cortex. You don't have to remember this. This is not very soothing to start off a meditation, so don't worry about it. But just for our information, that's our rational mind, and that's the part of us that can overthink. But when we talk about being in our higher mind, we're really more in our rational mind at a neuroscience level. They're learning about consciousness and other such things slowly but surely. So we just give a lot of patience and compassion to our beloved scientists who are lagging behind what the rest of us know. We love them anyway. So in neuroscience, we think of the higher brain being in our rational mind versus being in our emotions. And certainly making a decision from our rational mind is a lot better than making decisions from our emotions. I'm sure we all can relate with that. But then there's an even higher mind. When we do look at consciousness, there's a higher mind that is beyond what is in our intellect. Because when we think about it, our intellect can only contain what has been put into it. So our intellect only makes decisions based off of our learning and our experience. But when we go to the higher mind in consciousness, we're talking about intuition, which is connected to a bigger source of information and wisdom than what our prefrontal cortex is able to maintain at any given time. So there's a few ways of thinking about this that have been shared with me over the years and recently. One is the Einstein quote that a problem can't be solved at the level at which it was created, something along those lines. So if we created a problem in our emotions, we certainly can't count on our emotions to get us out of it. And likewise, if our problem or situation was created by our rational mind, or we're trying to figure it out at our rational mind, that's not always the best way to find our solution either. So there's that, kind of backing off, taking a step back and saying, okay, I don't know how to solve this problem, but there's a higher storehouse of wisdom, as my spiritual mentor, Jane Elizabeth Hart, calls it. The universal storehouse of wisdom is what she calls it. And that's that infinite presence that knows way more than we do and is there to help us with our problem. That doesn't mean it gets taken away and vanished and we don't have to deal with it. It means we can tap into something higher that helps us move through what is ours to move through, because it's in our lives, it's there for us to move through. A friend of mine recently shared that the first 3 steps in the 12-step program of recovery are, I can't is the first step, summarized, right? I can't, God can, I think I'll let him. So really that's what we're doing. Even if we take the God part out, if that part doesn't resonate with you, but we're still looking at that higher power, that infinite presence of my personal self. My emotions can't do it. My intellect can't do it. But there is a higher support that I can tap into that can. So help me just let it. And I said we have to work with ourselves to let it. So we're going to take that concept in our meditation time today of just letting go of the emotion, any emotion that you might be holding today, letting go of any thought process that you might be using to try to solve a challenge that you might be experiencing. And we're just going to let it all go and tap into that higher universal storehouse of wisdom that is available to us. And even if we don't get an answer during our meditation time, we are providing the space for being downloaded with information that will help us moving forward. So I invite you to move my computer a little bit here. I invite you to just relax in the space you're in your chair, your bed, wherever you are, and put your body in a position where you can just let it be relaxed and not even think about it. The body just melts into the space where it rests. We can help the body relax with our breathing through the diaphragm or doing our belly breath. Just breathing in to the count of 4 and breathing out to the count of 4. And repeat that until you feel your whole body is in alignment with that rhythm. Breathing in to the count of 4. Breathing out to the count of 4. As you continue this, as needed, just feel everything on the inside calming down. You can feel your breath and heartbeat becoming more in alignment or in the same rhythm. And when we are practicing being out of the mind thoughts and emotions that surface, there's that observer self or higher consciousness, if you will, that is watching over and watching the emotions arise. And there's that part of us that's watching the thoughts and being aware of the thoughts. We are not that thought, but we're the watcher of that thought. And in that moment of being aware of a thought going through our mind, we are higher than the thought. We are in charge of the thought instead of it being in charge of us. We could even say we have mastered that thought by being able to watch it instead of doing whatever it's telling us to do. That higher presence is the authority. It's a compassionate, loving authority, but it is most certainly an authority, the authority within us. Not the thought, not the emotion, but the watching, the watcher. I invite you to just notice what that perspective of the watcher feels like. For example, sometimes I feel like when I'm in that watcher, that observer self, that higher presence within me, I can feel my emotions in my gut and my torso. And I can just see them there from that higher place. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to figure them out. I just see them. And the thinking part of me feels in my head. Sometimes it can feel crowded. So as that observer self, just gently sweep those thoughts away. Not aggressively. That puts me in a power struggle. And I'm the observer self. I don't need to have a power struggle with my lower thinking. If we really watch those thoughts for a time, seldom are they rational at all, coming from the rational part of our brains. They overthink, they jump from one side of a solution or a problem to the other side, arguing both sides, enrolling the emotions and worrying about one side or the other. It's quite predictable, quite unnecessary. The job of the observer self, the practice of being that observing higher consciousness within us, is seeing the absurdity of the goings on of the emotions and the thinking. Just helping it to be still by not adding attention or energy too much. My teacher, Jane Hart, has shared that as she was learning to master her thought process, she would say, shh, that lower thinking and emotion, just shh, shh. Other times, she said she would picture an old-fashioned cassette tape player and just push the stop button when the thought would arise. Stopping the thought before it finished its sentence. That creates a quietness within, a stillness within that maybe you're not used to, and that's okay. As you continue to practice that, you learn to trust the quiet, you trust the stillness. Because even that stillness, or maybe it feels like a void, is so much better than confusion. Silence is so much preferable over fear. Let's take a few minutes now to just practice quieting the thoughts. We're not adding energy. Maybe as thoughts or emotional sensations arise, you can try out the shushing. It's not a harsh shush, it's just a gentle. Sometimes it's helped me to say peace, be still. Be still. Just take a few minutes to try out whatever way works for you to just stop those thoughts before they complete themselves gently. Finding that stillness within takes practice. Being more consciously that observer self takes practice. So we take this meditation today and use it every day. Just practice and experiment with turning off the thinking. There are many different visualizations that you can come up with on your own that help you. Just turn it off. The more you practice, the stronger that observer self gets, and the more authority you have on what's going on inside of you. So if you have time to continue this practice right now, please do so. If you need to go about your day, just take a deep breath and feel your body in your chair and your presence in your own surroundings in the room that you're in the home or your office. And when you're ready, open your eyes and take this practice with you. It's very valuable to have that skill and to develop that skill of being in charge of what's going on the inside, and not just some tyrant authority within you, but a gentle, loving, firm authority within you that will keep you out of the lower brain emotions and the overthinking prefrontal cortex, put you in that center within, which we practice every week anyway. Being able to practice turning off the mind is an extra piece of that centering process and being able to touch into higher answers for your everyday situations that come up. So lots of love to you. Thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.